US in Finland. So I built them the game education from scratch. And this was quite nice because nobody there knew what I should be doing. So I had free hands of, let's arrange a game jam now, and let's do this and that. But in the end, I created their curriculum, and it actually expanded to being projects like which would involve all of Finland in how the game education is organized and what's our like common parts in those, and then also like in programs with Baltic countries which still run. So there was lots of things happening through that. So yeah. Then on game design side, I started as a programmer. So I've been a programmer ever since I was 12, after my father bought me a VIC-20. So definitely after the first Hello World, I did a game. So I still think that's the only reasonable thing you can do with computers. So games definitely. And at one point, I thought like I'd like to be a designer. I applied, I got the job, and I worked as a lead game designer. Then in another company, I was their design supervisor. And while doing the practical design, I would actually also lecture this and teach this. At some point, I thought I'd maybe do a book about this, but I thought book is maybe a bit old-fashioned, so I'll do rather a website, which is more interactive and more benefits to it. And that's how game design school came to happening. And yeah, I've done a lot of. I've been a juror in many game competitions, EU experts, and there's actually a game competition called Bits One in Finland. I started, which is part of the Finnish Game Awards now. I've been a board member for the Finnish game industry hub Neo Games, so it's kind of like I think it's the equivalent to the AGI you have, and also entrepreneur. So I started my own first company in 2015, got that sold in 2018, and it became PlayStack's Finland office. And yeah, now I'm also running the education company, which is providing educational services, and there seems to be a lot of demand, and we've just signed our first contracts to India to start providing education there. And a bunch of the students who have done the game design school now work in like top game companies in Finland, and some of them actually are like the head of design or lead designers there, so they've done pretty nicely. So and when I come across them, they say like this has been kind of like the fundamentals for them on understanding and learning on game design. So yeah, so the canvas, to get into that. Sorry, I think we need to first register. See if there's somebody who hasn't registered, if you could now go to the website, which is at gamedesign.school/register.php, and the register will require your email, and then you create a password, and the password is minimum 6 characters with an upper and lowercase characters. So, for example, like password. Good. Then we can go to the actual site. So I made a special web page which is available right now for you guys. So if you go to Game Design School and /canvas_IGDX.php, you can find the page from there. And actually it's fully available for you, so you can like save and load today with it. And this will be if you enlist as a student for the course through the Finnish Metropolis School, then it will have access to everything what I showed today and will show, and to this canvas like full time. So now I'll swap there. So I'll stop sharing this and share my web page. So there we go. You should now see the web page. So just log out for now. I'll show you a bit around the pages. So once, if you complete this course, you will get the it's 270 hours in total. I mean, that's the maximum amount required from a student to complete this, and some people are a bit faster, and so. But it's completely online, and you can start whenever you want. You can complete whenever you want, and this works for like even if you're looking to start a career in game design or complete newbie for game design, works for you. But also, like, if you're a pro and you have problems in your game, or you want to like widen your tool sets of working in game design, or get some new ideas or views on how to take your game ideas forward, then definitely this works for you also. And it doesn't have any programming or art requirements, so it's purely game design in that sense. And upon completion, if you do it through the Metropolia, you will get the 10 credits, the European credits there, and a certificate. So and it's completely free. So that's the beauty of it. So whenever somebody graduates or completes the course, the school will cover my costs. So it will be free for you. And they're looking to get students, international students in the school. So that's how that works here. So yeah, but if I, let me just log in. And so here we can see the, so whenever I come here, it shows me like how I'm doing, how many pages I've completed. Once I complete 40 pages, that means some of the pages don't have exercises, so just reading them will be completed. But majority of the pages have some exercises, one or several exercises. But as soon as you complete those, you will have a page completed. And once you have 40 pages completed, you can submit it and get it approved, and you will get the credits and the certificate. And here we can see the curriculum. So it's divided in few modules. One is like the idea, so all related to working on the idea or your game idea, because just having the game idea is the first step, and we'll soon look a bit more into that, what it actually means. Like, the idea is only the beginning. Then the concept, where the canvas is very heavily involved. Then you have the design part. So this is like more like when you're in the production and actually working on the game and taking it forward, related to things. And working is especially like has like guidelines, checklists, and all this kind of things you will need in your daily game designer work. So it's useful in that sense. Then there's a section of production, so to give you understanding of how game production usually works, which is can be really important for a designer. And then monetization, and it's its own section, which is can be quite key in when making the game. So yeah, there's also the quiz. Then there's like a feature game, and this is something I won't show today, but it's kind of like where you divide your game into core, extended, wishlist parts. So you can add your feature of being like leaderboards, and you can put it to, I think it's extended. So core means all the features you absolutely want to have in your game. Extended is the ones you want to include in shipping, and wishlist is everything else. And this is really good to do for a team, because then once everybody has seen this, agreed on this, you share the vision for your game. So this is really useful in that sense. But I also urge you to do like random features, which can really like they can give you a hard time, but then again they can like help you in the game. So this is a game on its own to play this. And but there's things like these. You can have random actions which require you to do something for the game, and these can also take you into new directions in when creating your game. So if you enlisted the course, I urge you to try this at some point, because this can be really helpful in your own game project, and in helping on understanding how a game project lives and what happens during the production. That's pretty much the course. But today we're going to focus on the canvas, which has its own section. And if you usually come to this canvas, it's a bit different. So today we have the special version for you. Zoom in a bit. Okay, that should be fine. So the canvas is divided into with colors. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, some noise. Okay, the green is kind of like your pitch. So I've noticed, like, when you go to, I've been to numerous game events, and when I meet with publishers and investors, they usually ask, like, for what platform are you making your game? What's your one-liner? How does the game work? And what's the meta game? So kind of like these are kind of the parts you need in when coming across investors and publishers quite often, especially the pitch. And before I managed to sell my company, I was looking to get the funding or the publisher. And quite often I would end up in situations where there's 6 or 7 of us in a circle, and then the publisher investor comes there and meets everybody in the circle and says like, what do you do? What do you do? And everybody has kind of like a 1 sentence time to tell what they do. And usually after that round, the investor continues with 1 or 2 of them. And that's your space. You have this one line where to impress and to like really make the impression and get them interested on what you're doing. Then if we talk about the mechanics, if we go to the mechanics page here, there's here like a picture where you can see like there's kind of different elements where you can construct your mechanics from. And here's also like some ideas on how you could play with your mechanics. Like I think one of the points I make also with the canvas, with everything I teach, is like that people don't kind of take the extra step on like really working with their game and trying different things. I think good example is theme. So quite often when people start with their game and work with their game, they take the theme that comes to their mind. And actually in Malaysia, I did a workshop where I forced everybody to change their theme. And I remember especially this one company where they're completely against this. And they said like, there's no point in this. And we have the best theme ever. But I said like, give it a go. And they did. And the end result was that they actually found a theme that now answers all their questions. So quite often when you put in a theme, it kind of works there, but it comes off easily. So it's easy to change. But when you find your right theme, it doesn't come off anymore. It will stick there. It will hold there. And probably before that, you might have numerous questions, or what should this power up be, or how do we give reasoning to this, or how does this work in the storyline? But when you get the right theme, it will also help in answering all of these questions. So actually, if we look on the unique side, it shows yeah. But there's also like an exercise where you are forced to change your theme and to do this, and actually you're given a mechanics of like a simple game mechanics, and you have to come up with 3 different themes on that. And that's to give you some idea on how powerful the theme can be and how much you can work with that. So yeah, if there's also the genre, and this kind of relates also to the unique part. So what genre will you make your game of? And why this is quite relevant nowadays is that the space for finding new kind of games and new kind of gaming ideas is getting smaller and smaller all the time. So now what's happening is like there's multi-genre games. Those are, finding the new ways and new spaces for players. And yeah, sorry, on the mechanics. Let me get back here. So so here's some ideas of what you can do and what kind of different tools you could use. Like, if you think of like Pong, it's on the game's goal is like to hit the ball on these paddles. If you make it anti-Pong, the goal is to avoid the ball. And with this way, you can find new ways of using the same mechanics and then to extend the gameplay experience through this way. And I've worked on a bunch of games where there's like small mechanics to it, like naval battle. And I was given the task of making the naval battle and making it interesting, something that would last for days and days. And how did I do this? Well, this is something where the metagame's in place, and the metagame can work here so that it gives you like long-term goals, or it gives you a map mode, it gives you like a storyline, or like we used to call it that digital chocolate, where we work like a city builder. So you would build a house, and then you have the city builder mode where you place the house, and there's another game related to that. So it's kind of like an extension to on top of the basic gameplay. So that's the meta game. So yeah, okay, but with these, you should more or less have your you're like kind of like the pitch line on the core of it. Then if we look on the blue ones, we have the target group. And the one thing I always want to point out is like there isn't a group called like for everybody. There isn't such thing. I mean, people around the globe of different ages are different, but even they might be the same. I mean, different age people from around the world might be even different in player types, but as player types, they can be multiple. And if you look in Supercell games, they haven't actually done it so that they would serve a certain player group, but they look to serve as many player groups as possible. So there's kind of like something for everybody you can find in the game that would keep you there. So that's like good rule of thumb, trying to serve as many player groups as possible. There's also a page called why do we play games? And on this page, it lists like the reasons why we play games. And part of the lectures is to look into your favorite games and why you play those games. But I also do this in classrooms where we write these down. And it's somewhat surprising for the students that actually the reasons what they have. We also play rock, paper, scissors and look at the reasons why that was fun. And the reasons are the same, which go throughout these games. Pretty much like the excitement is one, the challenge is another one, and the fun, like these basic things. And so it's important to understand why your target audience is coming to the game. And like a very basic, simple design thing is like, you're not making the game for yourself, you're making it for your target group. Majority of the games I've done haven't been for me. There's been a different target group, and I've had to learn how the target group behaves and what do they expect, and then they create the game according to them. And then also like the reasoning of why people play on games is like good to understand and to know, because then you can like use those in your advance when you create your game and think of the kind of mechanics you're going to have in the game. So definitely like games that have been done are good places for learning. And feature list, and this is actually, when I see a concept, quite often I don't get the idea of how big of a game it is. It might be an RPG game and it doesn't like tell me if they're like 100 characters or 10 or what's the scope of their game. So this is kind of like to provide the scope, and this is useful for any project to get the understanding of the size of the game, but also like to for if you are approaching like publishers or investors, for them to get the idea. And I work for a publisher also and scout these games, and that is something I come across, and it's not rare that I don't get the idea of what's the scope of the game, of how big of a game they're actually talking. Are we talking release this year, or in 3 years, especially when it's PC, or even especially in console games, like where the range can be quite much bigger. Then the unique part. So this is something I think quite vital and really important to identify what's unique in your game. And I think how this should be approached is like, you should look to identify what is unique in my game, what makes my game stand out from all the other games, and usually look to focus on one differentiating thing. Like if you have something unique in the theme or the core gameplay, then it's good to have it there, not have unique UI ways or unique other parts of the games. Like I've seen games where everything is made unique and it's just overwhelming trying to understand even the UI to get started with the game, not alone with the gameplay there. But what I say here is quite often people reply that it's the good visuals or the story. And to me, those are not unique selling points. Those are like default production values. So every production should have good story and good visuals. Those are like by default. So the unique part is something that's in the game, how the game is played or something like that. It can be mechanics based or also. So definitely that's something. I'm going to show you actually how I see this idea type structure. So if we think of Tetris, it's not particularly a new genre, but it's kind of like a new way of playing games when it came out. And quite often people in the companies come up with like, hey, Tetris is a game that sells a lot and it makes a lot of profit. So let's make a Tetris. And quite often the approach is like, we take the Tetris and we have the gameplay and we change like the background of it. And why I'm not so excited about this is that when doing this is like that the background here is actually a destruction. It doesn't bring any additional value to the game. It actually makes it worse. So the next thing for you to do, and these are like kind of like cases I've come across. So not always the game starts from my idea, or it's a game that has been done previously, and we're just looking to remake it. So then the next thing I look to do is to identify what the game is made of. What are the basic components of it? And in Tetris, it's the pieces. So then I think of the pieces. How could I improve with those? And then, well, I'll come up with different shape of pieces. And that brings me something unique. And what you should keep in mind here is that when you go to a store, you go to Steam or you go to App Store, you see loads and loads of applications. If you don't see something new or different in those, it probably won't get your attention. If it's the same game you've seen like over and over again, it will definitely will not get your attention. But if you like Tetris, you're a fan of it, and you see this kind of Tetris, hey, there are new pieces, that might get your attention. You gets you into the game. I play this Tetris. It's not that easy. It's not that nice, but definitely it's something new. It gets your attention. I think this is one of the nicest approaches, like something new, something old, where you take a couple of two things and combine them. And here you put Scrabble with Tetris. Again, it's something new. I will definitely, it's taken another step in going forward and coming up with something new. And but again, like maybe not the nicest or easiest game to play, but definitely gets your attention. So that's kind of like what you should be urging for. And I can also show you that yeah, usually when you come up with a game idea, it's either mechanics, it's a theme, or it's a story. And to make it a complete game idea, I urge you to, story isn't mandatory, but at least some setting, which is kind of like the theme. So you should have these two. But I urge you always to kind of come up with all these three. So to complete your game idea with all these. And like I said on the theme, like once you think your theme is something that won't come off, then you then you found your theme. So I urge you to find all these three areas. Another way to approach in completing your game idea is thinking of the three parts you need in the game idea. Oh, sorry. Not there. So once you have the idea, I come across that somebody has an idea. They have a great idea. Let's make a tram driver game. That's the idea. That's the theme. But then what's the goal of it? How does the game actually play? Like, what do you do actually there? And it is a hard question, and that's definitely why I should also be looking to answer it. So what do you actually do there? So your goal is probably like to take people in time somewhere and have no accidents or something like that. Okay, that's the goal. What about the challenge? And the challenge should always be like something that can help you play the game different ways and provide you. I mean, if you play the game again and again and you every time get 22 points, I mean, that's quite boring pretty fast. So there's no challenge. And like Sid Meier says, like games are a series of interesting choices. And if you think like Space Invaders, there's choices going left or right and when to shoot. But that's already enough, providing you like an endless series of interesting choices on should I go there or there and what should I do? So that's kind of like where the challenge comes in and why it's really important in that sense. So yeah, but like on the unique, that's definitely something really, really important to work on. And on the best, I think it's something that you lose your sleep, but even better if you make others lose their sleep once they hear your idea, what you're thinking of, and what you're looking to do. So I think that's a really good sign on knowing that you're on the tracks. Then monetization. I think the first game on monetization I worked was an iOS fantasy RPG game, and we did a lot of mistakes there. We were really pushy and we made everything blink when you were out of stuff to urge you to buy something. But if you look at games now and you ask people like, have you done any in-ups on the games? And you ask like, okay, how long did you play the game before you made the purchase? The answer can be a year. And that's quite often. So So that's definitely like the case in many games. And if you look at many, I call them kind of like mechanics-based games. So the game is like built around small mechanics things. It's kind of like a Space Invaders or the Tetris or something like this. And then you add in monetization on top of that. And quite often you can see games where the monetization has been added as the last thing into the project. So let's sell something and something in addition, and that shows. It shows, and people just won't go for that, and they don't feel. They feel kind of like they've been tricked into playing this game for them to buy something quite pointless and really don't see the value there. So I think it's a question of understanding that players need to be appreciated before you can even think of looking to monetize on them. And it's also a question of content. So that's where the feature list comes in. So you need to have enough content that the players feel like it's valuable or reasonable to even to kind of invest in this game. But the other thing, like if you talk with these people who have made purchases after the year, they always appreciate the game and they always feel valued. And that's a common thing they always have. So very rare do you come across somebody who just buys something because it was fun for a moment, and but people take their time into doing that. That's probably also why the advertisement model works on these smaller games, and why it works better on those in that sense, to look to get the income through ads. So yeah, but monetization is like its own area. And if you think of a game designer, it's a mixture of a lot of things. It's like storytelling. It's basic game design. It's storytelling. It's monetization. It can be level design, which is its own skill. It can be thinking of viral and social features. So there's many aspects here to manage, and that's why in bigger companies these roles are split down between many people. So yeah, but yeah. And so definitely, yeah, monetization is it's its own section here. And so, like I said, in all of these, you can find the links onto studying on the monetization then, and see on those. Those won't be available now today, but if you enlist on the course, you will then get access to all of these to working on a game. So yeah, definitely the goal on what you work on your game is, and the objective. You need to think of this and how I actually see this, like. So funny things like working with so many games, like 100 published games happening, and I started seeing, and this is one thing I saw. It's like if you look at here, if you see any game in the store or any game you start playing, the first question is like, what do I do? And pretty much if you skip a game in the store, it's quite often because you didn't get answers to the question of what do I do. It's not clear for you. You go to the next game, or you start playing a new game and you don't know what to do. It's very unclear. You stop playing that. And I think one of the key theses also, and things I say about game design, is communication. And that's two parts communication. One is within the team. So you need to communicate to the people in your team as a designer, like what you're looking to do. Everybody understands the vision. They understand what you're doing, what you're after for, and in what way. So communication is a quite key skill for game designers. Then so once you get that answered on what you should be doing in the game, then your next question is, how do I do it? So you might know, like, okay.